evening, good evening, sorry, I'm so used to having evening meetings. Good morning, everyone. We're going to be calling to order the special meeting of May 9th, 2017, Englewood Cliffs Special Council Meeting. With that, can you have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kranjak? Councilperson Zaversa? E. Park?
Here.
O? Here. McMorrow?
Here.
N. Park?
Here.
Wu?
Here.
Borough Attorney?
Present.
Borough Auditor?
Here.
CFO?
Here.
Borough Administrator?
Here.
And Municipal Clerk. Everyone's present and the mayor is participating over the telephone.
At this time, I'd like to call the flag salute. Councilman Wolf,
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin, Mayor, do you have any words that you would like to open the meeting with?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and I thank you for being here. I had a scheduling conflict. I did not want my schedule to interfere with the council's schedule, so I'm calling in from San Francisco. I was out here speaking on a panel with the NASD NASDAQ on Communication Decency Act, which is relevant everywhere in terms of fake news and things that are going on in society and even our own town. So I'm participating by phone. We thank Councilwoman McMorrow for chairing the meeting. And I know the subject matter today is the budget. My view is that the budget has been amended once. Should stay as it is, comprehensive, it's fiscally responsible. It efficiently uses our capital surplus without creating a problem for future years. And I encourage everyone to vote in favor of it. That said, we'll have a discussion, which will be led by Councilwoman McMorrow. And the discussion will take place under Robert's Rules of Order, as we always have. Just to clarify a few things, because I think in the last couple of meetings, you signed a stray of Robert's Rules with everybody jumping in at the same time. So I just want to go over a few points. The first point is that only one subject may be before a group at any time. The second point is that only one person may speak at any given time. So if there's something on the floor, the order of speaking is prescribed by Robert's Rules, which allows the mover of that discussion to speak first. Everyone else gets one chance to speak, and then the person who introduced the topic speaks last as a rebuttal. If things become too loud or too confused, the chairperson, chairman, chairwoman here has the right to call her recess on one person's second in recess. It's not amendable, and it's not debatable. So there'd be a recess for a set amount of time. So with that said, I encourage everyone to have a productive meeting. I'm going to be listening throughout the whole time and speaking when necessary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman McMorrow?
Yes.
With your permission, I'd like to read the Open Public Meetings Act.
Absolutely.
Open Public Meetings Act statement. Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin board. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon the completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. I just wanted to piggyback on what the mayor said for a moment. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming together this morning to meet. Thank you all. Before we begin, to follow on what the mayor is saying, I would just like to set some expectations for what I'm looking to accomplish at this meeting. I'm looking forward to having a productive discussion. That's number one. I want to remind everyone, as we sit here, our first responsibility is to the Borough of Englewood Cliffs, and all other feelings need to be left outside of these council chambers. I'm looking around, everyone is in agreement with that. Okay. I expect everyone to conduct themselves in a professional manner. There will be no yelling, screaming, or name calling. You will all be recognized, and you will all have a... You don't have the floor, Councilwoman, we just started setting some parameters.
I
Please.
understand that, but it should be accurate in your statement, what you call it, we didn't call anything the last time.
Councilwoman, I'm asking you, please, if you want to be recognized, I'll recognize you. I'm setting parameters for this meeting, and I want it to be productive. Thank you. I will repeat number 2. I expect everyone to conduct themselves in a professional manner. There will be no yelling, screaming, or name calling. You will all be recognized and have an opportunity to speak and be heard. I will not tolerate anyone disrespecting one another, as that will not lead to any productivity. If I see the meeting getting out of hand, as it did at the last meeting, I will be calling for a 10-minute recess. I'm letting you all know that up front. I hope I will not have to do that. We sit here as elected officials with the responsibility of passing a budget for the residents of our town. We may not all agree on some points, but we should be able to agree to disagree and not hold our town at a standstill by willfully abstaining from voting. And at that point, I will ask for a motion to open to the public, unless anyone prior to opening to the public wishes to make any type of statement.
I'd like to make a statement, Carol.
Right, this is not for the matters of discussion, just a
Yeah.
statement and roll on. Thank you.
Yeah, my statements aren't, we've made the high-level comments. I feel that the average increase of $106 per home this year, $25 decrease last year, the cumulative amount being $81, or $3.38 per month. I think that's reasonable. As the chair of the police committee, I've looked through a lot of the contractual obligations that we have, most important of which is the PBA contract. We have salary increases that we're obligated to pay. Benefits are going up year over year. Between 2011 and 2015, our town's taxes increased by 21.3%. Compounded annually, that's an increase of 4.95% year over year. In my 4 months of being on council in 2017, I fully support the hires that we made to improve recreation, as well as our town's administration for both the short and long-term benefit of our town. I do not feel safety or other services have been compromised in any manner. We have many unforeseen costs in our horizon. Leaving an adequate surplus is better than having any type of emergency appropriation in any situation. We currently are party to 9 lawsuits. Right or wrong, there is a tremendous amount of potential liability in each case. We also have, police banked comp time, which I, sort of learned about in the last few months, having meetings with the police committee and the chief. $200K plus that could be cashed out in any amount at any time. And for us to face that, I believe it's a tremendous risk for the town. This year, my last comment is this year has been called the year of extinction for large retailers. So basically it signals a downturn in all kinds of commercial property. We may see, increased levels of tax appeals going forward in the future. I can't forecast that, but that's my own personal view. Given the advice from our council and our professionals, including our auditor, and the advice he has provided on where our caps should be, I believe that the budget tabled by the finance chair is reasonable. At the end of the day, having a difference of opinion is okay, but an unprecedented failing of the budget to pass via votes of abstention is setting a negative precedent for the future of our residents and for the future council members who will be serving our town, governing our town. It's my sincere hope we all exercise our fiduciary duty to get this budget voted on. A no pass of the budget would certainly, make headlines for us for many of the wrong reasons. So I, ask my fellow council members, my teammates here, that we pass the budget and we can move forward. I know I get calls from town residents all the time, little things like fixing a curb, the curb is cracked, it looks terrible in front of the house, this minutia, but there are things that I have trouble, to know that it's kind of out of my control if the budget is not passed. So thank you, everybody, for listening to my comments.
Thank you, Councilman Wu, well said.
I have a question, though. So you said it went up from 2011 to
Okay, hold on.
2000.
No, you have to,
Sorry.
that's okay. Yes, Councilman Park.
Taxes went up 20% at 4% per year?
21.3% on an aggregate basis, using 2011 as the base year, 2015.
Is that just municipal taxes, or is that the
That's
total of taxes?
just it's based on our municipal rate.
Okay. So 21% just based on our municipal rate?
Thank you, Councilman.
I'd like to know.
Yes, Councilman.
I have a follow-up question. So in those years when the taxes went up by 21 point whatever percent, what was the surplus that was left for the town? Are you comparing, apples to apples? Are you comparing the percentages of increases and the amount of the surplus that we had at the time, and what we're proposing this year? Just want to make sure.
I don't have the surplus numbers offhand. I don't know if our auditor
I can
does.
get that information for all of you, just from a procedural standpoint, Councilman, if I may, for a second. Yes, Catherine. Can we continue to discuss, is the requirement to open to the public first at this point, or can we have our discussions and then open to the public, and then bring our discussion back?
Well, next
In the
time,
following,
the agenda is open public meeting. This was supposed to be for statements.
just statements, not questions, right? So if we can save the questions till afterwards, okay? If it's okay with everyone, if I may make,
May I make a statement?
sure, of course, you're,
So, Councilman Wu, I listened to what you said, and I kind of agree with most of it, but the main point that you bring out is, is that taxes have been going up. So we have an opportunity here to not have that happen, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here to have that discussion. We still have a ton of money in surplus. That will still allow us to be fiscally responsible, in my opinion, and still allow us to leave a ton of money in surplus, to still not decrease any services. We'll still be able to patch the curbs and fix the streets and meet all our contractual obligations. That's where we seem to have a difference of opinion, right? So it's that comment that you made that hits me the most, that yes, taxes have gone up, so we have a shot here to not have that happen, and for some reason we're not seeing eye to eye on it. That's all. That's my comment.
yeah, thank you very much, and it's, you know what, it's a legitimate comment. We are here to do a better job. If you're not understanding, and I mean that in a positive way, I'm not saying that in a negative way. If you're not understanding or have the understanding that we have that much extra money, then we need to do a better job of helping you to understand that we do not have the plethora of surplus that you're saying we do. We just don't have it. And we can continue that conversation after we can continue that as the finance chair and as someone who has spent hundreds of hours sitting here with every department head and actually following the procedure that former Mayor Joe Parisi put in place. The system that we're doing now is what former Mayor Parisi put in place. Just for the record, I want everyone, the new people here, to understand that, of how the budget process was done this year. This is not something that we made up on our own. It was just carried over from what he did. So we will do the best job that we can in explaining to you, with the help of our administrator, CFO, and an auditor, in helping you to understand, and Councilwoman O and Councilman Park, because I agree with you. If we could do a 0%, everyone would want that. But we have to balance that with being responsible in what we're leaving, knowing what we know at this moment that is going on.
So one comment to that, this budget process was nothing like we've done in the past. And may I finish?
Go ahead.
We had always met, all of us, the entire council, met with every department head and had the opportunity to ask them those questions and listen to what their reasoning was for the budget. We did not have that here. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that is not how we did it in the
I
past.
was saying, I went to, again, I want to open to the public, I've gone to meetings in the past as an observer, and you were finance chair, and I know that you met privately with department heads,
Correct.
with the
You
mayor.
were the chair, correct.
No, I wasn't the
No,
chair.
I said if you were the
If you
chair.
were the
we met.
chair, but there were times that
Right.
we met with the department heads, but what,
And those-
Dr. Abortion was saying that this year, we were not part of that discussion.
Right, but
So
what
it-
I followed, what was done in the past. We can agree to disagree on that, and I can go and search all my emails. I don't want to belabor
No,
the public with
I
this.
agree.
But I learned this from my predecessors. This is not something that I made up new. This was something that I was taught that they felt was a better way of working through the budget and sitting alone with the finance chair and the committee chair of that committee, for example, if it was whoever was head of DPW or police, sat in with those meetings. That, and I don't want to, we can agree to disagree with this. Councilwoman Park, you weren't here, so you can only know what we're telling you, of course, but that is what was done in the past. But prior to that, I will agree with you, many, many years back, it was done that, the way you're saying, and they found it to be unproductive.
So, I came on council in 2012, and I was the finance chair for, I believe, two years?
I think 3.
Maybe three, maybe right. And then the year after was Councilman Plank and I believe
Councilman
Liang and
Yeah,
Councilman Park. So in those years, we've always met with the department heads, okay, council as whole, with the finance chair. They were maybe, a couple of meetings with just the department heads on occasions, but it was the norm for us to meet with the department heads and go over, what they were looking for that year, what they could cut. It was never really the finance chair with the department heads. So that was what was missing this year.
I have to tell you, and I'll be honest with you, in 2012, I was the lone Republican, and everybody else was full Democratic majority. And listen, majority rules, right? You guys get to do what you want. You're in control. I was not privy to any conversations, right or wrong. You get to do what you get to do. Let me, please, do not interrupt. Please, so we can, we're on a good track here. There were many questions I had. For example, Board of Health. And I've had many questions about how things were going to be run. And my answer was that it was done privately and that I was not allowed to be, because that was the way you wanted to do it. And it's okay. That was the way you wanted it to be done. And there were many departments that didn't come to our meetings and talk in the public. So I don't want to belabor the public here.
We're not.
Okay.
I'm
Setting the
I wanna say
record
something.
straight.
Well,
Carol, whether it was done in the
Yes.
past, whether it was done in the
Hold on,
past or
yeah,
not done in the past, let's move forward,
I'm trying to.
right? And let's not, say this was done in the past, or let's just
That's not how
set
I
a new
said it.
precedent.
That's not how I said it.
And, I'm new here, and I would appreciate some, being involved or letting me know, and I feel like, me personally, I'm always in the dark because I'm not told of things. So, with all due respect, I understand that you're upset about some things that were done in the past, and now you're saying that you did this because it was done in the
No, I
past.
did not, I never said that.
So-
You have a habit, Councilwoman, I'm
Okay.
going to stop you right now.
But
I did not say
The-
that at all.
Okay, the point is
No.
that let's not talk about the past, and let's just move forward.
Okay.
Okay, that's,
Okay, Councilwoman.
Carol, may I-
Well, hold on, Mayor, I'll give you the floor one second. What I said was, I'm going to be clear what I said. I was making it clear, certain aspects of what was done this year was taken from what I learned from my predecessor. That is a fact. I said nothing more than that. And what I'm going to ask each of you, please, to when you hear something, to just stay focused on the statement and not twist it into something else that you want to say. Okay, so if you have comments, I'm sorry you feel you're in the dark. I don't want you to feel you're in the dark. I have been here for you, offered my assistance, and if you have a question, just call me, and I'll get you your answer. So none of you should feel you're in the dark, so we're gonna fix that. If you feel you're in the dark, that's your own feeling. I'm feeling, and I have a packet of emails here, and saying how many times I'm here to answer your questions. So we're gonna solve that problem. You're gonna get every answer you want, and we're gonna clear that up. And going forward, for the record, again, I am saying, if you have any questions, just reach out and call. And if you can, please find the opportunity to do that. I know you think it's funny, I see you laughing, but please, do it before we get to a council meeting, because we're not here for sound bites. We're here to work. So I'm asking you all to please, I will work with you, I will help you. I don't know how many more times I can say to you, I will help you. I will help you. But you need to reach out to me and ask for that help. Yes, Councilwoman?
I did try to reach out to you for help.
And what did I do?
Okay, I asked you to give me the breakdown of the
Yes.
surplus. What
Yes.
was your response? You want me to pull up that email?
Oh, no, I can't.
Go to
Excuse
the
me.
town video and
Gloria, Gloria.
watch the video from
No, 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 I can tell you exactly what I said.
That's what you told me.
No.
I have it in writing, Carol.
Excuse me, I have it in writing, so no.
Let's be accurate in terms of our accuracy,
Councilwoman,
okay?
we're going to. I
All right,
called
I'm
you.
done with my statement.
No, but you're not,
Let's
you're
move
not
on
gonna
to
give
the public.
partial statements. What happened
What about my
was,
email to you on
Excuse
Good
me.
Friday, Carol? The response
you're out
that
of
I
order, I'm
got,
still responding to her.
please not open doors for other
Okay,
things.
you're
Okay,
out
I
of
just
order.
needed one
You are
comment. Let's
out,
move
you're out of
forward.
order. Did you hear me? You're out of order.
Let's just move forward.
No, don't tell me how to run the meeting. You don't run the meeting. I'm running the meeting. No, but she can't do this. This is not right. We're gonna move forward. We're gonna open to the public, Mayor. But there,
So
but
all
for
I'm
the,
doing is, one thing is that, there's two things going on when you do a budget. There's the process and then there's the substance. So even in this meeting, we've been here for half an hour,
Right.
and no one has talked about substance, okay? It's about the process. The process has been fair, open, and comprehensive. We encourage everyone on council, because the council is the finance committee, the committee as a whole, it's the entire council. And if people didn't wake up until April to start looking at the budget, that's a shame, and that's terrible for the public. So we've been working on it since January.
right.
And then in terms of the substance, I think William put it best in his opening statement, and I thank you for that statement, William, because you wrapped it all up together. That was the only substance of the day. Let's move on and let's get on substance. Don't make process the issue of the day, folks, because you're going to lose on that. You had so many opportunities to participate, and you didn't. Okay? Now, you want the soundbite, you want the election, all that stuff. So
You're
you're
moving politics out of it. I make a motion to open to the public.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone from the public that wishes to speak?
Douglas Sabari, 106 Hollywood. I'd like to start by asking a question. Today, will there be any amendments made, or does it matter what's said? Are we sticking, I know that originally the notice went out saying that it was going to be adoption and possible amendments. And then the notice was changed to adoption. So, does it really matter what's said here today? Is this the budget that's being voted on, or is there a chance for
You asked
amendment?
the question, I'm gonna answer your question directly. This is a budget discussion. Anyone can make any recommendations, thoughts, it's a discussion. So I don't wanna get bogged down on agenda, what was published, not published, it's just a budget
So
discussion.
the question is, can it be amended today?
If the council votes, well, they can make a recommendation, I don't believe that, from a
Okay.
matter of procedure, from an attorney, so she'll have to explain that, but
So you
anyone
don't
can
have
make
to
any.
advertise that if there's a possible amendment, it can still be amended?
No,
It depends upon the content of the amendment.
it's requirements by the DOT.
Special notice is required for particular types of amendments. Pre-approval is required by the DLGF before you can move to the budget. So any amendment, if there is one, can be entertained, but then the budget can't be entertained until DLGF approves amendments.
We need permission.
So that's why last month's meeting, we had an amendment approved.
Mhm.
Ms. submitted the day before, and we had it approved the day of, that's why it was able to go forward.
So this meeting, this budget couldn't be voted on today if there was a possible amendment?
No, good, right, exactly.
Okay. So it's not off the table, that can be amended?
Discussion is here, yeah.
Okay, so I'm back here again to talk about tax appeals. So I'm looking at the tax appeal line item, and it's 147,938, I believe, 50.
I'm sorry.
The
What
tax
page?
appeal, page 20 of the budget. So I noticed that last year, there was still 41,000 in reserve. I'm wondering, has that tax appeal been settled, and has that been paid out?
Is that a direct, is that Chris or Paul? Would you be able to answer that question on sheet 20? The tax appeals?
Yeah, I know the 40,000 you're talking about. I have to take a look at the appropriations that we had charged against this year. It was a combination of the appeals and the legal fees associated with the appeals. So I'll have to take a look at it. I don't have the reports on it.
So the money that's in for 2007 of 147, is that totally committed to be paid out, or are there?
2017?
2017, because I know there was a sheet that I'm not privy to because certain things weren't settled. So what I'm asking is, of that 147, how much of that is not settled yet?
So we got a estimate from the tax appeal attorney on, because things might sit in tax court for years and not get settled, like 7, 8, 9 years. So we asked him when we were going through the budget process, what do you think is going to get settled this year? And he gave us a number. The number was inclusive of things that were going to get actually paid out in cash that we're going to need to appropriate, and credits. And the way that we approached it was, for the number that he gave us for the items that were going to get paid out, that's that appropriation that you're looking at, that's the 147. So I do have it earmarked for the appeals that he listed as potentially going to be settled, that are still sitting in tax court. Some of them may have been. We did receive a couple of judgments from
So
state
is
tax
that in
court
tax
already.
appeals, or is that in
So-
uncollected taxes?
So the 147 that's going to be paid out in cash, that's in tax appeals. You'll notice
And that's going to be paid, you have settlements on the full 147?
I have settlements on a small amount of them, and I have estimated
Estimated reserve.
exactly. So the attorney told us that these other appeals are going to settle. When we got
Of
the
what we
estimates,
knew of at the moment, at the time.
Right, so what is the estimated reserve of the 147 that actually isn't committed to? So from the 147, you have commitments that you've already made settlements on, 100,000,
I think what
90,000?
If I may, to be helpful.
I just want to see
Yeah,
how much
that's what she
reserve
said.
you've left for yourself in the 147.
we budgeted the full amount that he anticipated was going to be settled this year. Since then, some of them have been settled, some of them have not been, but the ones that have been settled didn't come in over his estimate. So generally, he's going to estimate a little bit higher.
Okay, so from the 147, I looked at some of the tax appeals. 2 of them had to be paid on April 15th. So 2 of them in there probably are what, $100,000? So there's $40,000 in reserves?
So if you look at the stipulations on the tax appeals, some of them indicate that they're going to be paid. Some of them are going to be paid over 2 years. Some of them are going to be
And some of
credited.
them are credited.
So the 147, there was a list of block and lots from the attorney that said, these are what we're estimating are going to be paid in 2017. It totals to 147.
Okay.
Debbie, everything
So-
we know, everything
I
we
guess
know.
I'm still not privy to, I know that certain things have been settled, and I still don't understand why.
No, not
the
just
answer
settled,
is
it's like,
pretty-
it's like.
Settled in the sense of the checks have already been issued, they were issued on April 15th.
Anything that we know of, any settlements that we know of, or know or expect to have been settled or will be settled, is
In the
thought of
147.
In the 147.
Okay, so the 41 that's still reserved at the end of 2016, has that money already been utilized?
I don't have the appropriation report with me right now.
I don't know the answer
It was
to the
as of
question.
12/31, it hadn't been spent, that's what you're looking at.
Well, I'm just trying to say, we're worried about future tax appeals, I want to see how much we have in here. We have 40 when here that came over from 2016. We have more money in the 2017 budget, So, and which I think is great, you should have some money in there for future appeals, especially things that you know on the table. But like you said, these things could go on for years. So I don't think that that should be a factor when you're looking at your budget. You could easily push off a tax appeal that might come to your table today for being in next year's budget. It wouldn't have to be looked at for this year's budget, that's all I'm saying.
So when the emergency gets sent down to the state, we have to give them a list of block amounts that make up the amount that we're doing the emergency for. So it
Right.
is earmarked. Then if we are able to do transfers to cover legal expenses and things like that, then we can pay them through our legal OE, and we will be allowed to reserve in a reserve for tax appeals the amount left over. I don't have the breakdown of what was charged from January 1st to today on me right now,
Right.
but the way that it would work is if that 41 is available or some portion of that is available, I'd move that into a reserve for tax appeals for future tax appeals. And then we'd be able to pay any judgments that came in with that money.
Right. All I'm saying is I don't think that the budget has to have a lot of fluff in it for future tax appeals because it takes a while to settle.
There's no fluff in it right now, just because, I mean, unless none of the appeals that the attorney thinks are going to settle are settled, then
Right.
there's really not a lot of fluff.
I guess my concern is I don't want to wind up in the same scenario as the year before. So my question is, like, with the $295 for the year before, is it normal for tax appeals to be paid out of the capital improvement fund?
So nothing gets paid out of the capital improvement fund. You're talking about the capital fund, which is in from the capital improvement fund, then it is normal only if you do an ordinance for it. So you have to go down to
If you have funds.
state. Right, but there's an application to local finance board in order to be able to do that. You can't just bond for it no
Right.
matter when.
Okay, so the $295 from the prior year's budget appears to have come out of the capital fund in error. I have copies of the checks.
I asked you about that, you said no, remember?
I'm gonna send those to you. It really doesn't matter for today. All I want to say is that's why I have concerns about the tax
And I
appeals
did
and how
follow
they're
up on
being
that question,
handled.
but they looked it up and said that no, it did
So,
not.
well, I've gotten an Oprah where I have copies of the checks that were issued. I think it was an error, but it definitely
Okay.
did happen that way. So again, I hope that you guys won't come to a settlement on this budget, but I really think that the way things are going, we're probably going to wind up not amending the budget. I think there's room there in the surplus, but I'm not on the council, so you guys just do what you have to do.
Anyone else in the public?
Lauren Eastwood, 4 Willow Drive. I understand that when you were in control and did things and they're being continued, and you don't like them, that you want to stay in the past, you want to pretend the past never happened. In my opinion, that is the height of a double standard and the height of hypocrisy. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm also going to say that I served for 1 year on the council, and my experience was very similar to Council President McManus. I was kept in the dark. I was told nothing. For example, Mr. Battaglia. We hired Mr. Battaglia. I was not permitted to interview anybody. I was not permitted to see any of the other resumes. I was given one name and told to vote yes or no on him. And I'm not saying he was a good hire. I'm not saying he was a bad hire. I'm just saying that's the way it was done. I didn't know that there was Morrow Road flooding, although I've subsequently done an Oprah request and discovered there was plenty of discussion on it, but I was not included. I was asked to vote on Captain Morrissey's retirement contract without being given a copy of the contract to read. I abstained on that vote because I didn't have enough information to vote on it. That was my only abstention, isn't it? So, let's, not say, pretend the past didn't happen. It did happen. Councilwoman O, I am really shocked that you are asking about the surplus for previous years. You were finance chair in 2012, 2013, and 2014. Are you saying that you don't know how much surplus you left? Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember the numbers.
It's on the borough's website. You can look
Okay,
it up.
but I could look it up, but I can't use my phone this
You
easily.
could have used it before the meeting. You could have used it yesterday. One of the things that is really outstanding about our website is the amount of financial information on there. Thank you, Lizette. Lizette has the annual financial statement, which is the unaudited financial results, going back to 2010 on our website. You know, and that is something, it's available to everybody. There are budgets going back longer than that. The audits are there, the levies are there, bond statements to the extent that they're available publicly are there. Incidentally, those are also available on most of them, not all of them, on the Municipal Securities Rule Banking website. You know, there's tons of information that anybody with a computer can access. The residents and you guys. I assume you're all computer literate. Councilwoman O, you were finance chair in 2014. That year, Englewood Cliffs municipal tax rate was higher than the municipal tax rate in Franklin Lakes and Wyckoff, both of which offer libraries and ambulance corps out of the taxpayers' money. Why was our municipal tax rate 25% higher than Franklin Lakes' tax rate and 32% higher than Wyckoff's tax rate in 2014, even though they offered more services? That was your budget. I'd like to know, because we still are in that same, we've never been able to recover from that.
You're talking about the tax rate?
The municipal tax rate.
Can I ask in order, and the CFO, are we higher than Wyckoff and Franklin Lakes? I thought the rate that she's talking about is the, I thought you were like the second lowest in the county.
That's the overall rate.
How can we be higher
That
than
is the
Franklin Lakes
overall
and
rate.
Wyckoff?
That's scary that you don't know.
So what are you talking about? You're talking
I'm
about
talking about
the
the municipal tax
portion?
rate. The
Okay.
second lowest is the overall tax rate, and we have the second lowest overall tax rate because
Yeah.
we
I
don't
don't
have a
refer the
K-2
answers to the professionals, and if you say that you have all the information that you could get from the website, I'm sure you already have the answer. So, you know, I would recommend that you stop being political and asking these questions when you already know the answers to these.
I would recommend
You are
that
on
you
the
stop.
council, okay?
Stop.
You are the finance person for their campaign. There's a reason why you come to the meeting every month, and you ask these questions.
I would like to know why I'm getting less services and have been for years and years and years of Democratic rule, why I'm getting less services and paying more municipal taxes than in Franklin Lakes and Wyckoff. I want an answer to that question. And you apparently don't have one. So the residents understand that we have the second lowest tax rate because our school rate is low. We only have a K-8 district. Historically, we've paid almost nothing for high school because people choose not to send their children to Dwight Morrow. And that camouflages how high our municipal tax rate is. That's the truth. I realize it's ugly. The truth is, Councilwoman O, that you raised taxes every year you were finance chair. You voted for every tax increase that's been put in front of you, including a 9% tax increase. And then to cap it off, you and Councilman Aversa, who also voted for all those tax increases, voted against last year's tax decrease. This is all theater. The one who's being political and who's doing theater are the two of you. Now, Councilman Aversa, 2 weeks ago, to give you plenty of time to get me an answer, I sent you an email. And it wasn't a name-calling, you did this, you didn't do that kind of email. It was a question with some facts. And I understood that you were not going to be, if I came up here and I asked you questions, you were not going to be able to answer these questions. So I gave you 2 weeks. 2 weeks! And I'm going to ask these questions now. Does the borough have insurance? And I'm going to go lawsuit by lawsuit. And if so, what is the deductible and what is the co-insurance? I know that when I was on the council, our general policy was that we had a $75,000 deductible and we had to pay 20% of the next $250,000, so the co-insurance was $50,000. Michael Chaffee versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs. Do we have insurance for that?
Why don't you just ask all the questions once, I'll give you one answer.
Okay, you want me to read the
Read them all,
list?
go ahead, knock yourself.
Okay, these are the outstanding lawsuits according to a search of Pacer and New Jersey Courts Online. I'm not talking about settled lawsuits because...
You just ask the questions.
Okay, these are the outstanding ones. Englewood PBA, Joseph Favaro, Karen Geiger, and Melanie Simon, Scott Mura, Paul Renault, Michael Telzer, James Tracy, Kyle Oost. Do we have insurance?
Are you all done with all your questions?
That's the list of
Just
lawsuits.
ask all your questions, and
Okay,
I will answer them one by one,
Okay.
or all together, but I will answer.
okay.
Because I don't want to waste the public's time if you're here, so please continue.
Those are the questions for you. So,
That's all the questions you have?
well, I also have questions about the surplus. Do you want me to?
You can ask them all.
Is the surplus cash? Is it a cash surplus or is it a reserve for like uncollected
Is that your
taxes?
last question?
This is the kind of bullying that Joe...
I'm not bullying at all, I'm just
And I
asking you
really
to ask
don't
all the
like-
questions so that we don't, spend an hour here.
Well, this is a couple questions about the budget. I do have a couple of other things to say, but why don't we stick to the budget for now?
So you're all done with your questions?
On the budget.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure you opened all that information, and it has been given back to you already?
I got no response on that.
So if you didn't get it back yet, I'm sure you will get answers to all those questions shortly in all of your open. So I don't want to belabor the point here, so I know that answers are forthcoming, and you will have all your answers to every one of those questions. Thank you.
Well, my answer to that is, the deadline for responding to those open requests is passed. Lizette has not asked me for an extension, which says to me that Lizette does not have anything responsive to those, which implies to me that we have not paid any of the deductible on these 8 lawsuits, so that's $400,000 there, and we have not paid, because she has no insurance letters.
So you
And we
have
have
the
not
answers.
paid, this is what I suspect the answer is, I would like confirmation, and we have not paid any of the co-insurance on those lawsuits, which is $50,000 times payment. Actually, the first one was more than 4, it's 6. So you're talking about $1 million in potential insurance deductibles and co-insurances. And you want to reduce the surplus, plus Lizette did get me the amount of comp time we're exposed for. And it's very precise.
Okay, may I respond? Ms. Eastwood, do you have anything else to add, or can I get
Yeah,
some
I-
answers possibly for you from either the attorney or from the clerk?
I do have another question, and I'm not sure this does. I looked for the agenda a couple of days ago for this meeting on the website, and it had not yet been posted. I'd like to know how it ended up, but somebody did forward a Facebook post with it to me. I'd like to know how it ended up on Facebook when it wasn't on the borough's website. So that's another question. And finally,
By the way, I saw it on the borough website. What the hell is that?
it did later get up there.
No,
By the time I saw
it was on and it changed. That's where I saw it. I got a ridiculous email regarding some Facebook post. I have no idea what it was in reference to, the mayor sent me, but that's not where I saw it. I saw it on our borough website. That's where I saw it.
Why doesn't anyone ask me when I'm the one that controls the
Let
website?
me just,
I do have one more comment about a social media post which was printed and dropped through my mail slot. It referred in a very disparaging way to the current mayor. And I found the word that was used to be really offensive, because in my opinion and my experience, if anybody was a despot, it was Joseph Parisi Jr. Joseph Parisi Jr. limited speakers to 3 minutes, selectively enforced it, and interrupted those he didn't agree with constantly, so I never even got my 3 minutes. He promulgated an executive order which required council members to go through him for information, and that put it to a vote, and Councilman O, Councilwoman O, and Councilman Garcia, you both voted in favor of that. He came down off of the dais to intimidate me, and you sat there and didn't do or say anything about that. He allowed the minutes to be falsified to protect himself and portray me in a false way. I wrote you guys a letter about that on March 22nd. I still haven't heard anything about that. What have you done about it? Now, if you want to answer some of the questions, you're like professionals.
Okay, who would like to, okay, you can
Thank
speak,
you.
thank you.
Well, can I just say one thing? I would appreciate that there not be personal banter with people that come up and about their politics or their theater or anything. It's really discourteous to members of the public. It's worse, it's as bad as when you do it to each other, but to members of the public, it's not a good thing. So if we could keep that out of the interaction with the public, it would be a good thing. Thank you.
May I? Yes.
In response to some of Ms. Eastwood's comments, 3 topics. The first one having to do with the agenda. The agenda for this special meeting was approved by the mayor on Friday. Historically, I don't post it on the website before the governing body receives it out of respect. The governing body received the agenda on Monday. I posted the agenda on Monday on the website. What was posted last week, which I believe was on Wednesday, was the public notice that the mayor approved that I sent him. That public notice was posted on the website in the calendar. That's different from the agenda. If something was posted on Facebook, I'm not aware of it. I don't post on Facebook, borough business. So again, it's 2 different items. There's the calendar, which I posted the notice, and then I changed it as advisement from the mayor. And then what was posted on Monday was the agenda, which was posted after the governing body received it. Second to your response is your Oprah. Yes, you submitted an Oprah about 2 weeks ago with 15 items on it, and the 15 items had bullet points. One of them were the 8 or 9 lawsuits, and what I wrote to you twice was, please give me a call on item number, I believe it was item number 4 or 5. About 2 weeks went by and you didn't respond. And within the 7 business days, I responded to that full Oprah, and within the Oprah I said, I didn't answer number 4, please give me a call. You didn't reply till about 4 days later, when I emailed you again, and I said, I'm still waiting for a call. Nowhere did I say I did not have the records. Nowhere did I say I don't have the information for you. You wrote back kind of accusatory saying, are you saying you don't have this information? It's not what I said. What I said was, please give me a call. Your request was unclear. I actually spoke to the borough attorney and the borough administrator. I asked for their opinion, and it was unclear. So all I asked was twice in an email, please give me a call. That was it, just to clarify your response so I could get you your information. Councilman Aversa did show us your email to the borough administrator and to myself, and it was the exact same information you were requesting from me. Number 2. Number 3, as far as falsifying minutes, I take personal offense to that. I do the minutes for the borough. I don't falsify records, and I certainly don't falsify minutes that are posted on the website. Thank you.
I suggest you...
I'm sorry.
Regarding the agenda, it's always my understanding that the borough attorney has reviewed it before I'm asked to approve it, and there was a miscommunication with the clerk. I thought Anne Marie had already approved it, so on the back of the council, we had changed it, and so that was the confusion that was created there. And in the future, we're going to lock that down, correct? Everyone, don't give me anything unless borough council has approved it, and we'll move forward that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, thank you, Mayor. Yes or no? Do we have the information that was requested on the Oprah? No. Well, I'd like to know from a monetary standpoint.
Let me just answer the question on deductibles and co-pays. This is important to the budget so that you understand how it works. The borough is responsible for the first $75,000 in payments that must be made in connection with all of the lawsuits all of the lawsuits have insurance coverage to date except for Favaro, Simon, Geiger versus the borough. That is not covered by insurance. Our law firm has been assigned to represent the borough. That's totally on the borough's dime as far as legal fees. However, that lawsuit does not seek money damages, so that's the point on that lawsuit. All of the other 8, and I think, there are some miscellaneous personal injury cases as well, but those 8 lawsuits are emanating mostly from police department and police officer claims, as well as the chief's claim, the PBA's claims. Each one has a $75,000 deductible. The way the deductible works is from day one. We pay legal fees as part of that, the legal defense costs as part of the $75,000 deductible. If the case is settled before the whole $75,000 is used, the balance of the $75,000 goes towards settlement of the lawsuit. Above that, 20% is also paid. In looking at the lawsuits that we currently have, and again, this is litigation, so I'm not going to get into detail, but estimating the time frame for potential settlement, we have at least 2 and maybe 3 lawsuits that may come to fruition this year. We know that Telzer is an older case. We know that Chief Siapi's case is getting older. There is discussion to be had with respect to Lieutenant Mora, and there are a couple of other matters that are younger, like, for example, the US case just got filed, so we don't anticipate that. So the $75,000 is a known debt that is going to be incurred by the borough, regardless of payout to the claimant or not. So it is a gradual thing. It does come out of our, where do we take our $75,000? What's your line item? What's in each line?
We've got one for the settlements and one for legal OE.
What's legal OE? Is it in the legal OE? Okay. And it's kept track of per lawsuit separately, I believe, so that we know when talking with the insurance carrier that they're keeping track and we're keeping track and the number is correct. So that's how that lawsuit works. And it is a substantial contingency if they all come to fruition in 1 year. So it's important for the borough to address that. On the comp time, I don't know anything about that. I know Ms. Eastwood did request and apparently got something about the expected comp time. And that's all I have. That's all I have.
Everything on her OPRA was answered to except the lawsuits.
Okay, thank you.
And just for clarification, she did send me some samples of prior OPRAs that I had responded to the same information, but I was still waiting for a phone call.
Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Yes.
Lynn Morton, 9 Willow Drive. Council President Ignoro, as we said, we shouldn't be attacking people. We shouldn't be going directly at the council members. And out of respect, I won't do that. Trust me, I could, similar to our other speaker who came before me. But I don't think it's appropriate in this venue. I think we are all working together, and I will. So let's go back just on the budget. We're talking about cash surplus, which we felt was important to maintain. Can you talk more to the capital surplus? I know we have capital surplus on certain items that either were completed or not done. Is there any reason not to go back and use that surplus? I know you used roughly 400,000 of it. And we have a certain amount left. Is there a certain amount left on that?
What's the total of that one? What was the total before we used that? It was,
$673,296.06.
what page you want?
It's the,
Yeah, that's.
AFS.
And we used, how much of that?
That was the balance at 12/31.
No, I know, that's what I meant. And we used how much out of that total? That's the number I think we were looking to get.
Yeah, I'm looking to see, are those actually completed projects, are those the tennis courts, are those items that have been done, so we can recapture that, or are those things that we haven't been done? Because there's an
No,
avenue.
those are already canceled. That
Right,
number
but you
is
had another,
617.
oh, 617 has been 100% canceled, because I know you used
As
400
of
of it.
12/30, as of 12/31, that was why I asked him that number first. As of 12/31/2015,
Right.
we had 617 in the capital surplus fund. I'm asking them now, out of that, how much?
Okay,
did you-
so, I think you're asking me a couple of different questions.
Yeah.
Question number one, how it,
617, is that the right number? That's
$617,296.06.
as of December.
As of December 31st,
Right.
2016, still unaudited,
So sorry.
but yes. In the 17 budget, we originally used 273,797.16, and then there was another 127,000 on the amendment. So the net, what's available going forward is $216,498.90.
So that's all we have left.
Right, is there,
That's all we have left. in
that's
that
what you
capital
have
surplus.
left, but is there a reason we don't want to use that to offset the budget? Because generally, these are projects that are either completed or not done. So it's not like cash surplus where you can really
Well-
benefit from carrying it, because you have things like lawsuits and such.
No,
I would suggest that you don't use that only because if you're using in excess of, let's call it 350,000 this year, we're going to have to match that revenue next year. And if you use any more of that this year, we will not be able to match that next year. We'll already have a shortfall next year. $216,498.90.
capital surplus. Capital surplus. If I,
Which again is down from $617,296, so.
if I could just, for the sake, I know, Len, I appreciate, I know you understand, you were a prior finance chair, Councilman Clark. Capital surplus are canceled, or when you have ordinances and you do projects, after you're done with those ordinances, whatever monies are left over, you're allowed to ask permission to cancel those ordinances.
Stale.
Stale, that's
Done
the word.
over
Stale
with.
ordinances, and you put them in what's called the capital surplus fund. So that's how we got the $617,296.06. And change, right, and we're left at the 216. So we don't have any, right now, in the first question you asked, we don't have anything left to cancel stale ordinances. If you asked that first part of the question, tennis courts, that we don't have that yet.
Well, I think I heard, Garbarino.
Paul.
Close enough.
Paul.
I heard you say that you have approximately 200,000, whatever the number is, but you're protecting that so that you don't have to raise that again next year. Is that what it is, that it actually exists, but you don't want to spend it because otherwise it'd be too hard to regenerate it?
I didn't use the word protect, but my opinion would be to not use any more of it now, because next year, that's not gonna regenerate itself.
Okay.
So that balance is really all the governing body has for next year's budget. And anything less than this year's budget would be a shortfall, obviously, because normally you budget the amount from the prior year, and you wouldn't be able to do that, you'll have less.
Yeah, and at the February 27th meeting, I think you came to, that was the meeting that was held over at 42 Hudson, when Chris and Paul came, and we were talking about original finances and what our surplus situation was and all that. The original numbers that they had given us, and their recommendations, obviously, but they are professionals, and we would like to listen and take respect to what our professionals are saying. They had actually first told us, Captain, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it not to go over the $250,000 use? And again, their recommendations, using $250,000. It was only after the need for the amendment at last month's budget did we add in the extra 127. So we're already past what their recommended comfort level is for use of the capital surplus fund. We're already 127 more into that. So we now are left with 216. So we're already past
No,
that
I
point.
understand what
Yeah.
they're talking about, and I understand the regeneration of surplus probably better than most.
Yeah.
That it's
Right.
difficult
And
to
with all the
get,
unknowns.
but if we have at least other than having this come to the bottom line or to get used and canceled next year, there's really no,
You can't cancel it again.
you can't use this money for anything because it wasn't used for its purpose or its excess in its purpose, right?
You can use it for future capital work.
Capital stuff.
You can fully fund the capital with it. So if something was to occur
Also, we
during
have an
the year,
excess. Okay.
say a road collapse, we could actually go in
You can
and
use that.
I can use that money. So that is a safety net for any emergencies in the municipality. Additionally, as the auditor was stating, they're one-time revenues, you know, because we don't have other ordinances to cancel in the future. Right, so next year, because we've used so much this year, that's the funding we're gonna have to make up next year. So if we don't utilize this for a fully funded capital, we could actually utilize that next year and offset any tax increase.
Right, so that's the other
Right.
side, but you would have to do another ordinance or something to transfer the money over into
No,
another
we
budget,
can,
or
we
is
can
it
just write it into the budget as capital surplus, as long as the state approves that we utilize that.
And if you decide to use it for roads later, you don't need to
No,
do
we
another
would have to
ordinance?
do an ordinance.
Yeah,
We have to do a
ordinance, so it
capital
just makes it
ordinance.
available without having to bond.
Right, we would have to do a
Exactly.
capital improvement
Exactly.
ordinance,
And
correct.
because we have so many unknowns right now, there are many unknowns that could cost us money. That's not a lot, 217 there, and the other amount that,
Okay, I understand,
Yeah.
those are capital unknowns, those aren't your lawsuits or anything
No, but
else,
you-
those
yeah.
you can't.
right, but you could use
Fund out of
that,
that.
but you could if you needed to.
If, say, next year's budget, we had,
Your budget, yes,
yeah,
but not this year, you can't use
well,
that
we
this
could
year.
amend the budget, am I correct? If we wound up with an over expenditure, we could go to the state and ask for, an amendment. Say there's a settlement of a lawsuit, and we're in December, or November, let's say that.
We can do transfers if we have the appropriation available on the line. If we don't, we would have to do an emergency authorization for it, which
Right.
ultimately.
Do you
if-
transfer
if-
from capital, do a
if-
standard transfer from capital, or
No,
you
no,
have
no,
that?
no, no,
No,
no,
it's-
advanced
So
transfer
that's
account.
just the
Right.
surplus to whatever
Right.
we needed it to go to, the regular, the cash surplus, not the capital surplus.
So we would have to raise in the following year, so we would have an emergency and then we
I see.
anticipate the money and we'll get through as revenue
Right.
to offset the tax increase.
Good, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone?
Good morning. My name is Russ Torino. I live at 220 Fairview Avenue. And I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. First, about substance. The mayor, I think, put it pretty clearly about, two different types of conversations here. About substance, I want it to be heard that I, as a resident, fully support the budget as proposed. I'm more than happy to spend a few extra dollars per year to maintain the service that we have, and I do not think the surplus should be reduced. It's not fiscally responsible, and it's not the way it should be done. Regarding the format and the process, I'm a member of the planning board, as most of you probably know, and some of the rules that govern our behavior as members is pretty similar to what you all do here as council people. And I'm talking specifically about the abstention process. And that does serve a purpose. And it's used in cases where a member of a board or a member of a council is not up to date, hasn't had a chance to read a resolution, has a reason, a specific reason why they cannot vote in good conscience on the matter at hand. That's the purpose for it. And I was at the last meeting, I read in the paper that there was an abstention that basically caused a situation where this council wasn't able to proceed with business. And I have an issue with it. As a member of a board and having read the Cox Manual, which really talks about abstentions and their purposes and why it shouldn't be done unless it's a very specific circumstance, I have an issue with it continuing further. Hopefully it's not going to happen again today. But I urge each of the members to vote with their conscience. And those that disagree can vote no. Those that agree, vote yes. But the words in the Cox Manual are, it's a violation of duty for a member of a board or a council to abstain. In a situation where this abstention is continuing more than once, and I'll give the gentleman the benefit of the doubt as to why that extension was done. I don't know why. But for that to continue into the future is putting the borough in a very compromised position. And although some may think it's going to be newsworthy and it may serve a political purpose, my own opinion is it will backfire on those that think that it's serving a political purpose. Lastly, the council majority will vote and approve a budget that they see fit. We'd love to see bipartisan support. But if not, I urge the council to continue on, vote and adopt this budget as proposed. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Maria Valari, 45 James Drive. You know, almost everything that needed to be said was said. I basically, I've been here 30 years. My taxes have steadily gone up year after year after year after year. And my concern is that last year when our taxes went down, I don't care if they went down 50 cents. To vote no on a tax decrease is unconscionable in my opinion. And to now all of a sudden, after continuous increases in my taxes, I went from 6,000 and I'm paying almost close to 14,000. So I would like to ask the people who are running and the people that have voted for those increases over the years, why would you object to such a small increase to the residents? I don't think you're giving the residents a fair shake here, okay? Most of the residents don't even know what goes on in this place. The only reason I have some thoughts is because I attend these meetings. And I think we need to do a service to the town and not lead them to believe that this governing body here is trying to do something that's wrong to them. And I really hope that this isn't a political ploy. We stopped the Republicans from an increase. I hope that you all seriously think about the residents of this town who, in all fairness, I speak to a lot of people. They don't know what's going on. They only read the newspaper, and the newspapers are, they sensationalize everything in a way, and so everything that we read, we believe it as being true, but unless you're here listening to it all and going through it all, you're not going to know what the truth is. And as far as I kept hearing politics from the left side of this room, I kept hearing that's political. I don't know what's more political than past council people getting up. I didn't hear anybody saying, hey, Ms. Norton, you're being political because you used to be on this council when you're a Democrat. So let's stop this, let's work together, and I hope that we pass this budget for the good of the people. And just one more thing about all the years, all the 30 years that Mr. Parisi was in charge, our roads were never paved. It was ridiculous. Our taxes were going up, our services were going down. We have to send our children to private schools, and all I hear is politics. I want this to stop. I want the budget to pass, and I want everyone to work together as a resident, not a political person. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak?
I'm Mary O'Shea from Old Irving Avenue. I just would like to say that I hope that you come to terms with it and pass this budget as it stands right now. I realize that some of the figures in the budget have to be interpreted correctly to understand, but I believe that a lot of the surplus that is being spoken of is money that was anticipated to be collected for the school tax that the borough collects for the schools. And if you spend that and you don't regenerate it, you won't be able to make the proper payments to the school. I think you only have like $66,000 in actual cash surplus that was stated by the auditor last month, last meeting. So I hope that you don't deplete the money that's there that is being collected to pay schools, because we have a lot more school expenses with the children that are going to the academies, and that number has gotten higher. So I hope that you pass it and move on, okay? There's no reduction in services, everything is going to move forward, and I think that you got to put an end to this. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to be heard? Seeing and hearing none,
Motion closed.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, at this time, I would like to open up for discussion, and I don't know, Councilwoman O, or Versa, or Councilwoman Park, I don't know which one wants to go first, but I want to give everyone the opportunity to be heard. I want to get answers to your questions, if you have them, and if I don't have them, we'll get them for you, but if we have both professionals here, I think we should be able to answer everything. And I really want to help.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's our police overtime budget?
300.
I just want to make sure.
300, yes, we, council, the entire police committee met with the chief.
Yeah, no, I just want
No,
to...
no, that's okay, and we actually, we found a middle ground that he was comfortable with, and he is comfortable. And I have to tell you, in this budget, we were very happy. Not only did we put in, the chief is there, he's in the back of the room, he'll tell you, not only did we put the 300,000 in there, there's also an additional $50,000. We called it something different this year. I know I wanted to call it something other than what it had to be listed in the budget. What do we call it, Chris?
Accumulated absences.
Accumulated absences. And I know it's not a lot, but we had to start.
I just want to...
Yeah.
That's, you have to answer a couple of people who made a comment about me voting no on last year's budget. That was the primary reason I did vote no, was it was not, in my opinion, and it turned out to be accurate, that there wasn't enough money in the police overtime budget. And we were off by quite a bit of money, and that to me was the main reason. We don't want to cut services, and that to me was a possible cut in service. So that is why I voted no on last year's budget. That's why I want to make sure we have...
Yeah, no, we had 300, but, and last year's budget was a little, may have been a little bit confusing. There actually was, there was 307. There was 307 in overtime in last year's budget. There was no money for accumulated absence, but there was 307, but it was listed in two different places, which led to some confusion. So I hear you on that, yeah.
So I just wanted to make that point to the people who made that comment.
Yes, and
let's move on.
And one of the problems that we're facing with this budget, okay, which is why we feel so strongly about not utilizing any additional surplus, is that we do have $200 and some odd thousand of a liability on the books that we only found out through the meetings this year with the chief putting the papers in, that they could be cashed in at any time. So that's something that we just have to be cognizant of. Sure. With the new contract of 2014, it did stop the earning of banked comp time, but anything that was on the books prior to that is on the books. It's just on the books. So right now on the books, give or take, it's like it was 200 and change.
So the odds of them taking all at once are slim to none, but we understand.
You got, yeah, right, but it's there, it's looming, you know what I mean? Hopefully, they won't, but they have a right to. They have a right to.
It serves them no purpose to take it now because they can continue to accumulate that money. It's like bank money. Yeah, and that's why, anticipating that money being there is kind of a little bit ludicrous.
I went back and looked over the past couple of years. It's been an average that they're taking between 10 and 20%. So, worst scenario, I'm hoping 60, 65. But they could take it all. The thing is, they could take it all.
It's like between $26,000 and $52,000. It's $260,000 in
I hear you. Right, exactly.
So, okay.
Right. Right. But just so you know, it's the unknown of trying to be a little more on the cautious side and not running short. This
it was higher this year with Deputy Chief tomorrow
That's terminal, we're talking about,
That's
that's a
terminal.
separate issue.
That's what, that, we know
But
that's.
you're right in that-
A lot higher this year than that.
But that's all cash, that's all in the budget as a cash payout this year. So we were happy we didn't incur any debt. And that's something to really be proud of on a budget that you're voting for, that you are not adding any debt that we know of at all, because every day that we don't pass this budget, other bills could come in that we do know of, and then we have to make arrangements for. So for right now, our tax appeals and our terminal leave payouts are being paid for in this budget, and that's something I'm really proud.
So just to
Hold on.
clarify, Carol, what's the number, actual dollar amount that we have in for anticipated, accumulated time?
50. We put 50. And every year, we want to add more. So if they don't take that, we talked about this, like, Chris, we're going to add more. Next year, every year we want to add more, and because we're paying our debt down, right? That's what we want to eventually do, and find the ways to do it. So
I just want to just go over the legal line item for legal expenses, 300,000, and then, which is on page 12.
Page 12.
And then, on the following page, page 13, there's a line item for the other insurance premium litigation settlement. Just out of curiosity, the 510, that includes the premium plus potential settlements for 2017?
I'm going to let the professional, Chris, could you help with that answer, because I like that myself.
On sheet number 13, sorry.
Line item, other insurance premiums,
Yeah, but-
litigation settlements, 510.
What the councilman asked me, correct me if I'm wrong, how much of that is what our premium is, and how much is set aside for anticipated settlements?
Let me give you just a couple of minutes here to pull up the detail on
You
that.
got it.
One of them, part of it, the increase over, a lot of the increase over last year was there was a resolution that was done in, I don't know, August or September, where we had it was 3 or 4 payments that we had to make to the JIP, to the MEL, as part of the settlement. Those are payments that we know have to be made this year. The rest of it, premiums.
That was the snow on the Shaloop. I think that might have been part of the Shaloop. Remember we had the, sorry. The Shaloop.
Can we finish with the yes.
So, yeah, the Shaloub repayment, that's $22,069.89 on January 1st.
Of what year, please?
Of 17.
22,000.
We've got another $22,000 on June 17th, so that's $44,000 in that.
For
just
Shaloub
that.
as well?
That's just for Shaloub. Yeah,
So is
that's-
that, would that be the settlement portion? Or you said that was part of some sort of...
So the resolution, I have the Word document, I don't have the actual adopted resolution, but it says that the borough agrees and stipulates that its obligation under the MEL and Bergen County JIF policies is to pay $88,000 towards co-pays and deductible, rounded numbers. And that we agreed to do that in 4 installments plus interest. 4 installments of $22,069.89 plus interest, with the first payment being made to the MEL on or before January 1st, 2017, and subsequent payments to be made on or before June 1st, 17, January 1st, 18, and June 1st, 18.
Right. So it was total of 88, so we're paying half this year,
Right,
half next year.
right. What about the rest of it? 460 something.
Pulling up those sheets that we had at the workshops.
Just curious, these were premiums or settlements? And what the breakdowns were?
So we've got something called Fireman's Life Insurance. We've got Parks and Playgrounds Insurance. Our JIP payment is in there. And we have the excess liability lawsuits of about $49,000 in addition to the 44 that we had in there.
Just one other quick question. I know that there was some sort of, I don't want to mention the name of the lawsuit, but there was a settlement at the end of the year in 2016 going into 17. Was that paid? $375,000?
Settlement. That's not been resolved to date.
It has not been resolved?
No, it has not been paid out.
So where would that money come from if it does get resolved and so forth? I don't see that money being.
I'm not really even
Yeah, okay.
sure about the case. I don't even know what settlement we're talking about, to be perfectly honest with you. Until I get the notice saying, this is the result.
I think in that situation, we would just have to deal with it as it goes. So it would have to come out of the surplus? Either that, or we have to make some type of arrangements to... Emergency? Yeah, pay it in some manner, depending on what the stipulation of it is. I'm not familiar with it.
Hopefully we'll be able to, for that following year.
Right, I know. Just like you just discussed this one where you did pay out, we would push to do that, not impact the taxpayers in that regard.
Councilman Aversa, do you have any questions that would help you to,
I think I'm okay. I just, again, it becomes a difference of using that surplus or not. But, you've done the okay so far with line items. I'm not sure what some of the public asked about legal things that seem to be okay there. So I think it just comes down to that. Like I said, last meeting.
I think before I say, Councilman Park, is there anything that I can help you with, answer?
Sure, I have a question on
Okay.
the legal
Sheet
services and costs, sheet 12, 300,000.
Yes.
That's including, I guess, outside of Dorsey and Semero, if there's any other litigation.
That is for, tax-bill attorney, Dorsey and Semero, special litigation,
Special litigation.
like Demora Road. So we had to hire, and, labor, I'm sorry. Labor, right, thank you.
Basically, it covers any legal matters that are addressed against the borough, that have to be charged.
And that was, we were at 200 last year, the recommendation from administrative,
Yeah, if you had a hearing officer, it was probably charged there. It was a legal capacity.
we don't, and in all honesty, we don't know if the 300 is enough. We're hoping it is. And that's why, it's so important, again, my opinion, and it's only an opinion, to listen to the professionals saying, we're at 1.3 using right now surplus out of a 1.525 maximum allowance. You're only allowed to use 1.525, correct?
Yeah, but
without going
Yes,
for
that's
special
correct,
permission.
correct. But there's more to, as Chris and I spoke at the first budget workshop, the surplus here is kind of second budget workshop. And I'll let Chris speak to it if he wants to. But my concern there was to be conservative this year because of the component of surplus. I know this is complicated. Being an accountant, I am so excited that we're having this conversation. Usually, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. It's great that you have such interest. But seriously, you have what's called surplus. Unfortunately, in our type of accounting, it's broken down into various components. Then you have what's called cash surplus, which is the second piece. And then you have to look at what the material component of surplus is. In this particular case, it was deferred school tax. And Chris and I had a concern from that back in probably mid to late January. It was one of the first conversations he and I had when we did the operations statement. Actually, my partner and Chris had the conversation first, then they brought me into it, and it was a material amount that we're not used to seeing here and not used to seeing even at other clients. It was just trying to choose my words here. It was an increase in surplus based upon the increase in deferred school taxes that were material to the calculation. I'll kind of leave it at that. So I know that's complicated, but I guess when you look at surplus, what I'm trying to say is you have to look at surplus, you have to look at the cash component of surplus, which is the statutory limit. Then you have to look at what you need, might come about from next year, which is uncertain. And again, what component of that that is real surplus versus just a component of the deferred school tax. So it's kind of a unique situation this year.
So I understand that the bulk of this cash surplus may be from the deferred tax, school tax, but as long as we have kids going to the Bergen academies, I think we're going to always see that high number before school taxes. So you could almost anticipate that in the years to come. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That it's not,
I'm listening.
Incident.
That is important, and I took that into consideration, and Chris and I haven't had this conversation yet. But based on some preliminary numbers that I've seen from the school for next year, and based upon what's happened in the past, it's really an anomaly last year. I'm looking at, going back, looking at history. I can only look at history. I can't predict the future, but historically it's been larger. Been much lower. So last year was a larger anomaly. I don't know if Chris has anything.
I did have that, if I could get the question she's asking, and that's what's really throwing this number off, is that more than double from last year. So I had Chris pull the numbers from 2010, because personally, I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know that we utilized deferred school tax in our budget. This is something I learned brand new. I'll say it's right, for everyone. Even though I was on the council for a year, back in 10, 11, 12, I had no idea. So this year, and the reason I found out was through this explanation, how did we get to such a high surplus this year? It's a normal question. Everybody's going to ask that. You see that and you say, wow, I have a lot of money. Well, I had him pull the numbers, and going back to 2010, Chris, do you have them with you? I didn't bring them up from home, but
I don't have them.
If you go back to 2010, and please, I know the reporters here, I'm going to give rounded out numbers from what my memory is telling me. 2010 was like 240,000 and change. This is school deferred tax now within our budget. 2011, increase over last year. So let me make that clear. Increase over last year, 240 and change. 2011 was a zero increase. 2012 was like 42,000. 2013 was 99,000. 2014 was like 112. 2015 was 342. And then 2016 was 734. It's like out of the park. So there's not even any data that could explain it. So the risk that's being run is to anticipate that, like you're saying to possibly consider. Well, if you go back to zero, then we have problems next year then. So we're kind of trying to, we don't know enough. We don't want to really depend on that to base our budget on that high number.
Well, have you talked to the school board to see what,
I talked to,
what makes
no, I don't want to, we really shouldn't, I don't think it would be good and put them in that kind of position, but
There is a formal document that will have to be filed with the borough clerk, and at that point, that's their way of telling us what we have to collect for them.
I received it, and Chris has it.
Okay, good.
So the number that the increase over next year, assuming that you defer the full 50% that you have been doing, is about 272,000.
Oh, what? 270?
272.
So we'll be down.
Is the increase year?
So we'll be down 400. And-
versus the amount that went to
260,000.
surplus last year, it would be less.
So it's going
272.
down to
No, it's-
460,000.
It's increasing. So what you do is you look at the total school levy, and the maximum that you're allowed to anticipate is 50%. There's actually another little set of rules there, but the maximum ends up being 50% of the total levy. You take last year's levy, you take 50% of that. You look at this year's levy, you take 50% of that. You take the difference between the two, and that's the amount that goes to surplus. So last year, they're on a fiscal year. Okay, so the taxes that you just paid in February, the ones that just came due in May, you're paying for a levy that hasn't even been released yet, right? So we're paying 6 months in advance of the school tax bill coming in. So your options are you can defer it and it goes to surplus, or you do nothing with it and the cash sits in your bank and you're eventually going to be paying it out, and there's no interest right now. So sitting in the bank is really not helpful. If you defer the full 50%, that this year the difference is going to be $272,000. So that's what drops down to surplus. So, last year the amount was over $700,000.
734.
So,
You're talking about a 400.
you're looking at a reduction.
Almost.
You're talking about almost a $500,000 difference, which is why, I didn't have this number until this moment, why we have to be conservative. We can't strip ourselves of surplus and be left down to zero. In the fear that something like that, I didn't know those numbers. Sure.
I agree with you that you're not being conservative, but it's also a matter of, it's not our money. It's like collecting a sales tax or a payroll withholding tax. You're acting as the agent for another governmental entity here or subdivision of a governmental entity, and we hold that in trust for them. So, it's the right thing to do to do what we're doing, to be conservative, but also we're not even allowed to spend that money, in my view. It's not ours. It belongs to the school, which is a whole other issue which we can't talk about here, but.
Right. Well, apparently, Mayor, in everyone's defense, apparently that's been going on. It's a decision that was made before any of us sitting at this table by some prior governing body here, and we know about it now, and we need to act fiscally responsible, knowing what we know now, which is to be conservative and leave the extra surplus. Thank you. That being said, I think that kind of sums up that whole discussion. Thank you. Do you guys have any further questions about the use of surplus or council? No? You okay? That being said, I'd like to make a motion to call a vote for the 2017 budget. Do I have to read you? No. No? Motion?
So we need a motion and a second, please?
Second.
I'm sorry, who motioned? And a second? May I take a roll call?
Yes, please.
Councilperson Zaversa.
Listening to Councilman Wu, I kind of appreciate his comments, and listening to the mayor at the last meeting in the spirit of working together moving forward, I'm going to vote. I appreciate the budget and all the work you did, Carol. I still don't agree with the surplus. I respect the comments and the advice of our professionals. I just don't agree with it, so, but I'll vote no.
Thank you.
E. Park.
I want to say it was very helpful today, you guys were here. I answered a lot of questions, but I'm torn. I mean, I want to be prudent as well as anyone else, but, I would like to keep our taxes low. I know my tax is going to triple once that was done, so it is a concern to me, and so I'm going to vote no.
O.
No.
McMorrow.
Yes.
M. Park.
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
Mayor, there's a three-way tie. I'm going to ask you for your vote.
I vote yes.
Okay. Budget passes 4-3.
Mayor, I would like to,
I just
I
said
just
thank
wanna
you.
say thank you. I wanted to say
Thank
thank you.
you.
You took the words out.
Sorry.
I want to thank all three of you, and I genuinely mean that. We can all sit here and agree to disagree, and that's okay. You know what I mean? That's democracy. Everybody gets to have an opinion, and going forward, and I genuinely mean this, if there's anything that I could speak for myself, anything I can do to help you to understand, answer your question, whatever it is, just call on the phone, pick the phone up. I answer my phone for everything, and I'll be there.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
I
And
know,
by the way,
wait.
Well, Mayor,
Mayor,
no,
have the
Mayor,
floor.
I gave her the floor. I did give her the floor. Sorry, Mayor.
Do you mind if I run? Do you mind if I run?
No, you can go. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
well, thank you.
Okay, so congratulations on your budget passing. One recommendation or suggestion that I want to make is that I know it was said a couple of times today about the prior administration, okay? Prior administration did this, prior administration did that, and therefore, we're going to do the same thing. Can we just leave that out because, I got on the council in 2012, okay? And I think you are really going back far, further than when I first got on board. So I think we should, going forward,
Yes.
leave that out.
Sure.
I don't want to hear about prior administration, because it's only been a couple, 5,
Yeah.
6 years?
Yeah.
And I think we should really focus in the future.
On positive, and I agree with you, and I apologize if you took that statement really, and I mean this, in a negative way. I didn't mean it that way at all. When I said what I meant to say, and if I said it the wrong way, I do apologize. When I said prior administration, I meant, I learned that there, and I thought it was okay to do it that way. It wasn't a negative reference that way at all, and not because they did it, it was okay. I thought it was okay. So if you prefer the other way, that's okay with me too. I don't have a preference. My understanding was that was the way it was okay to be done. So it's a miscommunication, and going forward, if you want to go back to the other way, I'm okay with that.
I don't know what other way you're referring to.
Meaning that
but
they
I
come
just-
to the table, every person.
We want to be included in the discussion.
I'm fine with that.
We want to participate. And I know it's not just, Council McDowell that I'm referring to. I'm talking about the mayor. I'm talking about certain people in the audience that always come up, at the monthly meetings and, just say all these political things about the prior administration, and I think we should really stop that today. Thank you.
Well, let me just, can I ask, Councilwoman McMorrow? Councilwoman Bo, it's a two-way street. We are happy to work with you. We're happy to include you. You can call us whenever you want and participate. But until I see that your duties are going to this borough and not to your party, the people handling your party, it's going to be difficult. So when we leave this meeting today, you all have some soul-searching to do and decide where are your loyalties and duties going to. They should go to the borough, okay? And only the borough. That's all I have to say.
I think, first of all, I agree with you. I agree.
I don't disagree with it.
I agree with you, and if we could, amongst us, all sitting here, there are many people from the audience, and I'm not mentioning any names. You know, on both sides. And I think that does have to stop, because, look, I try to stay off of Facebook. I don't like half things that I see up there. There are some pretty, and not saying that you do, but there are people that are associated with you, and you can't control what some people do. There's some pretty nasty stuff being written. And, we all want to do a good job. We got in this position to do a good job, and no one likes to see that people are being spoken poorly and being called names, and that's what I was referring to earlier. So if we can all agree from this point forward to do whatever we can, that's all we can do, right? Do what we can to stop that behavior, then I think we're going to be able to achieve some pretty good things. Because I'm looking forward, we have some great capital projects that are in this budget. We should all be very excited about talking about them, and now we can. The budget passed, we can talk about them, and we can hear what each other has to say, and whether the, improvements to the Capitol building, to the buildings, the fields, it's just all positive stuff, so let's just...
Well, I wanted to end on a positive
Yeah, I know.
note, but I have the mayor on the speaker. I mean, what he just said, it goes totally against what we are talking about here at the table, and we're all here to discuss this. And, Mayor, I think, you owe me an apology about what you just said, that it goes two ways. I mean, I am here making a recommendation and suggestion that we work together, and, you just can't, help yourself if you jump in and you're just putting me down again.
And how about we do this, Councilwoman, that the next time someone from your team posts...
There's no teams here, Mayor. There are no teams.
Shut them down. Shut them down. And we shut our people down. Our people don't do that. And that
You know what? There's no teams here, Mayor. Come on.
It's a waste of time.
I just,
Excuse me, the mayor is speaking, 1 second.
If people are going to post things that are inappropriate, as a leader, you need to step up and shut them down and put them in their place. We certainly would do the same thing, okay? And that's not the borough forward, that's what our citizens expect. And the only people who will be disappointed in that are the same people who are doing those posts. They'll have to move on. And if you do that, I guarantee we will work well together. Okay? That's all I know.
Well, today was a big step for everyone, and what Councilman Wu wants to speak, I am beyond ecstatic that we were able to just get a budget passed, and I thank all of you for working with us, even in voicing your opinion the way it is, which is opposite of our opinion. That's okay. But we passed the budget for the town. If we just let Councilman Wu speak.
Councilman Aversa, I appreciate your comments regarding my comments. This morning I did go through, and I need my quiet time to think through, what my thoughts are. I appreciated everyone's questions today from the entire council, because they shared, I learned a lot from the questions. And, again, thanks again for letting us pass, and looking forward to moving things forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, Mayor, I'm going to